how do you get people to stop complaining or running the rumor mill, or worse, creating a toxic work environment, especially in senior care? This question comes today from a Facebook group page that I belong to. That an administrator had written a question asking everyone for a little bit of advice. And let me give you the high points. I'll read most of what the administrator wrote. She says that she's having an issue with her leadership team. I have 2 members specifically that have been gossiping, criticizing the DON to other department leaders, and saying how everything is unfair in the facility. One of the leadership team is the ADON and the administrative assistant. On their mind, the DON should be covering a lot of open shifts, and they also think that I, the administrator, should be working the floor. And then she goes on to say that when they are short-staffed, she does go around, she does help out, she does make beds, she does pass water, she does things, she truly does try to help. And the DON, of course, does the same, but is not consistent. Then she goes on to say, but I also have a job to do, the DON has a job to do, and nobody's coming to their rescue. And those the two department heads that are complaining, have been complaining so much, the environment has become toxic. Mostly, and then she goes into the administrative assistant is on a power trip, thinking she shouldn't be doing administrative work, which makes no sense. And then, nothing. I've been having a conversation with other team members. And of course, they also had a conversation with the admin assistant, and I feel the explanation is not working. Oh, and the worst part is that when we try to ease the burden of the ADON, so unable to have a conversation with DON, explain her struggles, 20 plus years as a healthcare administrator, never seen something like this. I feel your pain. I got to tell you, I really do. And the comments, there's like 27 comments at this point, and they all say basically the same thing. Everybody kind of has the same knee-jerk reaction, which I'm going to openly admit, I too would have had this same knee-jerk reaction especially when I first started. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, and the responses are, it's time to clean house. Best piece of advice is to don't be afraid to kick the tree. Don't manage in fear. Document everything. Review job descriptions. Whatever you allow will continue, so don't allow it if you don't want it. Which is, again, all the things that I would have said not even that long ago. However, I want to offer a different perspective, a perspective that I think that's not being well represented in the comments here, and I think a perspective that may perhaps not only help this administrator, but help many people in a leadership position when they are having this same situation. When you're learning that, there's a lot of people talking behind your back and the rumor mill and the toxicity. So first and foremost, let me say this. If somebody is causing rumors and they're talking and they're running leaders down, generally speaking, and I learned this the hard way, honestly. Generally speaking, they're not talking only for themselves. Rather, they may be the only person that you're hearing from, but they may be actually talking from the group. Like they may be actually saying what the group is thinking. There may be more than one complainer, but you're only hearing from one because only one person kind of had the guts to say anything. That's important to know. And then the other thing that I want to point out before I get too far into this is how do we explain this? What the administrator is saying here is that the ADON and other people are saying that it's unfair that the administrator or the DON's not in a job routine, not up on the floor working, doing CNA work or STNA work or LNA work, whatever you all call your nursing assistant, nursing aides. But that really is not what they're saying. Nobody cares. Let me be plain here. Nobody cares if the administrator is doing CNA work or LNA work, or right? Like nobody cares if the DON is doing that work. Nobody cares. What they're really saying is that they are struggling up on the unit and they're not able to get things done and they need help. Now, they don't care who does it, but, just because they're in this and they kind of have the victim mentality and they're kind of like they're being overwhelmed and they're overworked, and they maybe see the DON not busy, or they see their perception as the DON or the administrator is not busy and they should be doing it. The truth is, they don't care who does it. They just want help. They just want to get stuff figured out. And this is truly where the administrator and the DON can really work. They really can help out. Because again, and not again, but for those who have not had a conversation with me, the entire point of a management job is to serve the staff. That's it, period, end of story. And it goes by the management position. So a frontline manager, a nursing supervisor, their job is to serve the CNAs, the frontline staff who are doing the actual work. A housekeeping manager's job is to serve the housekeepers so that the housekeepers can get their job done. A dietary manager's job is to serve the dietary staff, so on and so forth. But then the DON's job is to serve the nurse managers. And the administrator's job is to serve the department heads. So that and by serve, I don't mean they do their job. I don't mean they get in there and start making beds and passing water. That's not what it means. It means that you all make sure that your team, your managers under you or your staff under you, have everything they need to do the job. Now, before you start going, oh, but we already provide everything, let's just take a step back for a minute. I want you to consider that your managers, your nurse managers, your housekeeping managers, your dietary managers, your social service director, whoever, they're employees. And nothing reminds them faster that they're an employee rather than a manager. It's when they are being asked to do more work and less managing. Nothing is more clear to a manager that they are not a manager when they're being asked to do work that is not management work. So when you start feeling like that, when you get promoted into a leadership position, every one of us, me included, got promoted into a leadership position. I could not wait to be in charge. I could not wait to help. I could not wait to oversee. I could not wait to make sure we were getting everything done. I couldn't wait to be the best boss ever. But then, as soon as I was told, hey, we're short-staffed, you've got to go into a job position. You're no longer managing today or this week or this month or this year because we need you in a job position. I immediately get an attitude. I immediately start acting like exactly what I'm being asked to do and become, which is an employee, not a manager. And so as an employee, I don't think I have the ability, the responsibility, or the power to make any changes or any decisions. And so I become less of a manager. Now, I'm still getting paid as a manager. I'm not giving up my title and my ability to come in a little late, leave a little early, take breaks whenever I want, all those little perks we take as managers. I'm not willing to give that up. But I am willing to hide behind the notion that I'm no longer a manager. Now I'm an employee. So I'm saying all that with peace and love to say to the administrator in this situation that your managers don't feel like they are managers. They feel like they're employees. And indeed, they are employees because they're not being able to manage. So I'm saying all this to say there's an awful lot the administrator can do. There's an awful lot the DON can do. There's an awful lot every manager can do if they're allowed to manage. Go on the unit and start addressing the real problems. The real problems aren't they don't think you're working hard enough. That's not the real problem. The real problem isn't that they think the DON is skating by. That's not the real problem. The real problem is they're having a lot of issues up on the unit. They do not feel valued. They do not feel empowered. They do not feel heard or listened to. And people are getting away with things. And by the way, we could talk about that too all day because this conversation is just one of those things that are just constantly happening. And it's the conversation about what it takes to be a frontline manager. It is exhausting. It is challenging. It is very, very personal. And frontline managers, because they're always having to choose their battles, always, because there's always somebody trying to get away with something, big, small, indifferent, doesn't matter. And so the manager just constantly starts to let their leadership and their position of management kind of dwindle down and dwindle down and dwindle down to a point where, and this is super important, to a point where they no longer feel like they can be an effective manager. They don't know how to reset. They don't know how to reset. I used to work for a company that believed wholeheartedly, and I bought into it too, that it was easier, and it is easier, by the way. Let me say it is easier. It's not better, but it's easier. It's easier to fire managers and make a change than to try to get the manager to get on board with the change. So if you want to change hours, you want to change a job routine, you want to go from, in the dietary, imagine going from a tray line to a steam table. Well, oftentimes it is easier to simply fire the dietary manager and then hire a dietary manager with letting them know, hey, this is what you're hired to do this. Because it's hard. It's harder to get people on board to the change. And managers, and one of the main reasons is because managers simply don't know how to reset. They don't know how to go, okay, listen, I know for the last 6 months or the last 3 years, we've been lackadaisical on letting all of these things slide, but we're not having it anymore. We need to start upholding this standard, or we're going to adhere to this system. Managers struggle with that. They'd much rather fire the employee. They'd much rather be like, all right, let's just get rid of the CNAs or the LNAs that did it the old way, and we'll just start hiring new people, and we'll let them know that we're going to everybody's going to be written up if they come in late or if they try to leave early, and we're going to hire new staff, and then we'll start holding them accountable to the no-call, no-show policy. Again, I understand it, but it's one of the things I have a problem with SMART goals. I think SMART goals are dumb. SMART goals, dumb. The reason I think SMART goals are dumb, and this should be a whole separate video all on itself, is because a SMART goal has the assumption built into it that everybody agrees with what your goal is. And everybody doesn't agree what your goal is. And so the best way to create a goal is, first of all, to get buy-in. And how do you get buy-in? Well, the first thing you need to do is go on what we call like a little bit of a listening tour. Go, hey, all right, what's happening on the unit? How can I help? What can be changed? I guarantee the issues that are going on in this building, in this facility, this community, this nursing home, where this administrator is having this toxic, it's manageable. And I would invite you to consider, administrator, it's much better to take the blame without taking it personally than it is to start getting tougher, tough love. We'll just fire a new person. We're just going to clean house. We're not afraid to shake the tree. It's never been a good policy. And now with the staffing the way it is, it's really not a good policy. It's much better to, hat in hand, go up on the unit and go, tell me what is the problem, and let's really figure out how to solve it, because it is solvable. But only the manager, and in this case, only the DON and the administrator are the managers. Nobody else is a manager. I know their manager in title. I know they have the badge. I know they have the paycheck. Don't matter. As soon as they're put in a job position, a job routine, for any consistent time, 1 day, 2 days, 2 years, they do not think that they are a manager. They don't take the responsibility. They don't think that they are being valued. They don't think they're being listened to. It is super important that everybody understand that. Everybody understand that. My name is Ralph Peterson, and if I can help in any way, reach out to me, 914, I'm going to put my number out, 914-656-0190. Simply send me a text and say, hey, saw this video about that response you made for the Facebook group about a toxic work environment, and I'd really like to talk to you about it. Send me a text. I'll set up a time with you. I would love to talk to you about it. This is solvable. This is solvable. Let's not throw away our employees just because they're calling us out. Sometimes we deserve to be called out. God knows I've deserved to be called out. Probably will again. That's it. See you later.